Oh yeah, gotta love the curtains. All right, hello everybody, and welcome again to the awkward people that have joined the stream after we're recording live. And this is that period where I'm sort of waiting for people to funnel in before we can start the live stream. But you've tuned in trying to figure out what Money Shift in the Morning is. So let me tell you, okay? Money Shift in the Morning is your daily automotive news. We tend to stream between the hours of 7 and 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, okay? So depending on where you are in the world, that time obviously changes. We cover new news, car topics, motorsports, you name it. This show is all about cars. And if you tune in the morning during the live show, we're interacting, we're communicating. It's a vibe. The community rocks. Come hang out, relax, take your shoes off, stay a while, and let's talk about cars. So I'm going to share this in a couple of places and we can get going about cars. So I'm going to share this in a couple. There's always this also like this semi awkward moment where when I'm sharing it on social media platforms, I can hear myself. And then when I do that, it almost gives me like a mini stroke. Because I'm hearing myself talking, but it's at like a slight delay, which is like the most unnerving thing ever. And there was actually one podcast episode where I did it almost entirely listening to myself, and there were multiple moments where I was just kind of like slur my words like that. And I legitimately thought I was stroking out because of it, which is terrifying. Huh. All right. Okay, so today we have two pieces of concrete car news, one piece of speculation via a CEO of a popular brand, and then the last we're going to finish off with a Sebring 12-hour preview. So you guys are going to have a full run order of what you can expect for the starting grid of the Sebring 12-hour race. So without further ado, let's get right into it. This is the brand new Civic. So we've already seen what the concept Civic is going to look like, but recently both these spy photos as well as other photos of the Civic have all but confirmed what the model is going to look like. Now, before everyone goes up in arms, remember this is what the last one looked like. So there's going to be two pictures of the current generation Honda Civic sedan so that we can sort of level set expectations when we're looking at what the new Civic sedan is going to look like, okay? So drink this in. This is the current model. Now this is going to be what the next one is. So now if the California patent filing is anything of note here, the 11th generation Civic will have a 2.0 liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder engine or a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. And I believe that engine makes... The turbo engine makes 158 horsepower. The base engine, the 2-liter four-cylinder makes 158 horsepower. The turbo engine makes 174 horsepower. So don't expect those numbers to change too dramatically in the new Civic. Another thing that is huge that actually brings me a little bit of pause for Honda as a brand is that CVT is likely going to be the only transmission offered in the new Honda Civic. Now, I know that the CVT transmission that is offered in the Civic has been notoriously more reliable than products coming out of Nissan, Mazda, or other CVTs. But I will say from a pure driving experience perspective, it is a little bit of a bummer that the car isn't available with a good automatic, right? Even Nissan, the CVT evangelists, have gone away from the CVT and are starting to put the 9-speed auto in their cars and have acknowledged that it was a mistake for them to jump as far deep into the CVT as they did. So we'll see. Those details aren't final. Those are subject to change, obviously. But if the California patent filing is anything of note, then this car will likely have carryover power plants from its from the 2020 generation car, just with a new body. It's also important to note that this car will be available in a sedan, as you see here. It'll also have a 5-door hatchback body style. There will be a Civic Si sedan and there will be a Civic Type R coming out. So that means that the Civic Coupe is dead, and the Civic Si Coupe is dead, which is a shame because I feel as though the current generation Civic Coupe is actually the best looking of the three different body styles. I really, really enjoy how the Civic Si Coupe looks, and I would have loved to see how they would have adopted this sort of more European bland design language in the Coupe, because the Coupe made the polarizing 10th generation Civic design look very, very nice. So it would have been really cool to see what they could have done in a coupe body style for the new generation. But alas, it is not to be, and we are stuck with a CVT 1.5 liter turbo or 2.0 liter naturally aspirated engine for the Civic. So here we are. If you guys are watching this, let me know what you think about this car. I don't know. I'm perplexed. Part of me likes that it is less quote unquote offensive than the 10th gen Civic. I think when that car first came out, I had a lot of reservations because it was such a drastic departure from 9th to 10th gen. But going from 10th gen to this 11th gen, it seems like they're pulling back a little bit and bringing this car in toward to more of a mainstream and making it more boring, which gives me a little pause again, right? We talked about the CVT thing a little bit earlier, where I'm just a bit nervous that this car is going to like fall into sort of like early 2000s Honda Civic, where because they didn't iterate, it became stale and competitor products swooped in and actually did better than that car. I think the early 2000s Honda Civic was forgettable, and rightfully so. It wasn't really a good machine, and everything else around it was. The Corolla was great. Even the Cobalt, cars like that were really, really good. So we'll see. I hope that this isn't history repeating itself, but nonetheless, we show you guys everything here on MoneyShift. The next topic of news, I love when we can share a PNG, by the way, on the stream, because you get the sleek background, everything like that. But anyway, this right here is a 718 Cayman GT4. If you're a car person, you know this car well. It's a pretty nutty machine, 4-liter, naturally aspirated, available in manual and in PDK. Just an overall batshit crazy mid-engine Porsche, okay? Porsche, 18 months ago, actually wasn't clear whether the 718 would continue. And now maybe they had it internally that it was going to be confirmed, but they never communicated that message outwardly to anybody until recently. So 18 months ago, they said that they have the opportunity to do the car as an electric vehicle, but they're still in the concept period, so they haven't decided yet. So they haven't even decided at that point what the car was going to be. So now recently, they've announced that the 718 is going to continue, and that is clear. It's not up for debate. The 718 will live on in next generation. Now, what isn't clear is whether it'll be just gas, just electric, something in between, but Porsche says that they need a future battery evolution. If a 718 was electric, it should be driven like a 911. So, I mean, of all the companies that I have faith in to do something and to do it correctly, it's Porsche. So I have the utmost confidence that they'll be able to translate a 718 into the next generation. I think when this current generation 718 came out, even though it performed better than the last of the Caymans, there was definitely some reservations about the car because they swapped from the flat 6 engine to the like flat 4 in the base Caymans, and with that came a lot of loss of emotion. So even though the car was better to drive in some respects and faster in other respects, because it didn't have that flat 6 engine note, a lot of people aren't as big of a fan of the modern 718 as they were the last of the Caymans. So we'll see what happens for the next generation model. I find it hard to believe that they would go to a flat 6 for the base model again, especially as we're trying to progress to a more electric or eco-friendly conscious future, but nothing is off the table, right? We're introducing manuals where we thought they wouldn't exist. We're introducing GTS models of this Cayman with a flat 6 because of how, in demand that engine was in that car. So The future is endless, but the fact that a 718 is going to be continued is good news. And if you are a Porsche fan, you should be ecstatic about the fact that a 718 Cayman will continue to live on. It's one of the better cars that Porsche makes, if you could say they make a bad car. But anyway, it's definitely a really, really good machine. So I'm excited to see the next evolution of the Cayman, even if that means it's electric. So we'll see what happens there. So sort of to tease in this Sebring 12-hour conversation, Lexus debuted their IS500 launch edition car. So all these track shots here, by the way, that Lexus IS pace car looks sick and could be released today as an ISF and people would go nuts. Look at that thing. Aggressive, beautiful, slight aero, looks awesome. But anyway, we're not here about the pace car. We're here about the IS next to it, this guy. So what is the IS500 launch edition? So it has a very incognito exterior because, you know, what's a brand without a special edition or offering a cement gray exterior, right? Porsche's got the chalk. Oops, sorry, guys. Porsche's got the chalk. Audi's got the cement gray. Scion had a cement gray. Ford has a cement, like everybody has a cement gray. So Lexus, why not them too, right? So it is that color mated with a 19-inch matte black forged alloy, which is from BBS and is actually something you can get in the Sport Dynamic handling package on the ISF. So it's not unique to the launch edition. But that wheel is 4 pounds lighter than the standard IS wheel, and we know how lighter wheels make a car feel, so 4 pounds lighter is good news. The biggest change, though, for this launch edition is in here. When you get to the cabin, that's when things start to really differ from the regular IS500. So it has two-tone black and gray ultra suede upholstery on the seats, doors, and center console. Designers also added an individually numbered badge so you can know which out of 500 you have. And there is a heated steering wheel with a unique silver ash trim, which is very reminiscent of the first generation ISF that had a similar type of steering wheel. Last but not least, the car also has an exclusive startup animation, because that matters to whom? I don't know. In terms of things to make a car special, I don't know if like animation of the instrument cluster is like something that I would tout. Like, it's not like I'm going to go to some sort of event, Cars and Coffee or whatever, or even get in the car in the morning and be like, ah, yes, my special startup cycle. No one else has this but the 499 people that do. Mahi Mahi, shout out with the like. Thank you for tuning in. It just seems like a weird thing to include on a special edition vehicle. Is a special startup sequence. But anyway, as a reminder to level set what the IS500 is, it is a 5.0 liter naturally aspirated V8 in the Lexus IS chassis, body, whatever. It produces 472 horsepower, 395 pound-feet of torque, and that engine is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission, which allows the IS500 to do a 0 to 60 time of 4.5 seconds. You have adaptive suspension available, limited slip available, beefier brake systems with two-piece aluminum rotors up front. This thing is definitely a serious upgrade over an IS350. Now, when it comes to pricing, the IS350 F Sport that is on sale today. Mauricio Rios, thank you for the like. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. The IS350 starts at $42,900. Okay. So that car is the 3.5 liter, right? Not this V8. And it starts at $43,000. So what are we expecting? What do we think that the IS500 is going to charge? Well, we think that the regular IS500, so not this launch edition, the regular one, is probably going to be within that $50,000 to $60,000 range. Okay, maybe even higher, right? Like high 50s into high 60s. Right? Because you got to remember, we talked about I think it might have been yesterday actually, the TLX Type S, which has 355 horsepower, super handling all-wheel drive, double wishbone suspension, adaptive down, That car cost low 50s. So Lexus now has a little bit more runway in a car that has over 100 horsepower more, has a V8, is naturally aspirated. So this car could easily cost in the $60,000 range, which means that this launch edition could be even more expensive. We're talking about mid 70s. So now, I don't know, does 60 to 70,000 do it for you for an IS500? To me, it's special enough because this is probably the last car that will be like this, right? The last one to be naturally aspirated, the last one with a V8, the last one from Lexus, no doubt. That's not to say that F models won't exist. That's not to say that they won't produce performance models, but this is probably their last NA V8 sedan. There's no doubt. So there's a price to pay for that, right? Lexus didn't have to make this car. They could have easily just made their next generation IS and had an ISF variant that had a twin turbo V6 from the LS and created something really special. But they did, and we should commend them for it, right? So super pumped that this car exists. I don't know how I feel about the launch edition, but overall for the IS500, I'm really, really excited about it. Okay. Our closing thing here is going to be a preview of the starting grid for the Sebring 12 hours. So if you guys are tuned in on Saturday, March 20th, 2021, in about 3 hours, I think actually 3 hours on the dot from right now, the Sebring 12-hour race starts. And this is the pole sitter. This is the Whelen Cadillac Daytona prototype that is piloted by Philippe Nasr, Pete Durrani, and Mike Conway. The caddies are back on top qualifying. Okay, should be no surprise here. Second place is the Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, Alexander Rossi combo that drives the Konica Minolta Acura. This is the car that won the Daytona 24-hour, and it won it over the third place car on the grid, which is this guy, the Renger van der Zande, Kevin Magnussen, Scott Dixon piloted Chip Ganassi Cadillac. So it is a Caddy, Acura, Caddy, 1, 2, 3 on the DPI front row. Fourth place, Mazda. But sorry, you don't make the cut to get included in the picture, but we'll shout out to Mazda in fourth place. The pole sitter for LMP2 is Rasmus Lin, Dan Goldberg, and Matteo Lorena piloting the number 11. Oh, excuse me, I got the names mixed up there. This is Stephen Thomas, Tristan Nunix, and Thomas Merle piloting an Orica car. Every single LMP2 car will look like this. They're all Orica Gibson cars. Okay. And then next, and the LMP3 side of things, because there are 3 prototype classes during this whole season. This is the Rasmus Lin, Dan Goldberg, Matteo Lorena car, and this is a number 38 Ligier. So there's a Ligier and there's one other brand in the LMP3 field. So there's a little more difference here, but for the most part, the LMP3 cars look the same and all the LMP2 cars look the same. Where you'll find the most differential on a car-to-car basis is that top spec Daytona prototype, where the Acura very much so looks like an Acura, the Cadillac looks like a Cadillac, and the Mazda looks like a Mazda. It's really tough to confuse those cars. Shout out to Abbas Rona and Matt Gomont for tuning into the stream. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. I appreciate it. As we continue, things get more exciting, right? We've talked about this when we were previewing the Daytona 24-hour, but there's really 2 really exciting classes. There's the Daytona prototype class, which is the top spec class, and then there's the GT cars, okay? And these are the liveries that Corvette is running for their GT cars for this race. This is a celebration of Corvette anniversary. And starting on pole in the GT LM class for Corvette is the number 3 car with Antonio Garcia, Jordan Taylor, and Nicky Katzberg. And right behind him is the number 4 car with Tommy Milner, Nick Tandy, and Alexander Sims. Now the GT LM class only has 2 OEMs competing in it. There's Corvette, and then there's BMW, who's only doing the endurance races. The Porsche that is in GTLM is a privateer car. So it makes no surprise that Corvette was 1-2, BMW was 3-4, and the Porsche was 5. Okay? Moving on to GTD, this is where things get super duper spicy. If you had to tell me, Thanasi, you can only watch one class during the Sebring 12 hour, this is the class I would choose. It is the most diverse, it is the biggest, and it is the closest. I mean, look at the top three here. Qualifying first is the number 16 Porsche of Patrick Long, Trent Hinman, and Jan Heelan. Qualifying second is an AMG, right? A Mercedes. And the number 28 car, which is piloted by Daniel Murad, Michael De Quesada, and Billy Johnson. Shout out to Billy Johnson, by the way. Like follower of MoneyShift. Big shout out to Billy Johnson. We're rooting for him this weekend here in the Mercedes. But number 3 is the Lexus RCF of Aaron Tellitz, Jack Hawksworth, and Kyle Kirkwood. So we got 3 different cars from 3 different companies in the top 3. And if you extend this lens out to the top 5, you got 4 different cars in the top 5, with 2 Lexuses coming in the top 5. So the GTD class is the one to watch for sure. It's the cars that are most closely aligned to what you're driving today. These are all GT3 spec cars, which means that the amount of manufacturers in this class is incredibly diverse. You have Lexus, Mercedes, Porsche, Acura, like a bunch of different brands. I believe there's a Ferrari in there as well. There's an Aston Martin. That's 6 companies right there, right? And I probably am forgetting 1 or 2. So in about 3 hours, the Sebring 12 hour starts, and those are your leaders in each of their respective classes. So you guys are ready to go. And with that being said, you guys got some homework to do, because today is the Sebring 12 hour, and this weekend, again, Drive to Survive debuted on Netflix. So there is plenty of automotive content to watch. And if you want Tech Talk 2021, and Sam will provide you with all the information you need to get sped up and up to speed on each of the cars and what to expect during the next Formula One season. So with that, I want to thank everybody for stopping by today. I am Thanasi, and this is Money Shift in the Morning. This is a morning automotive news podcast. We talk about everything from new car debuts to motorsports to topics, all of it. And if you guys ever have any questions, do not hesitate to DM MoneyShift, and we will talk about your topic over the course of the episode. We've already helped people find cars. We've helped people buy cars. We've talked about budgets. We've talked about all different kinds of topics, and I love having these discussions with everybody in the chat at all times. I am Thanasi. This is the MoneyShift podcast. I am signing out, and I will see you on Monday, bright and early.